Welcome to the TBC podcast, where we discuss curious, thought provoking, and sometimes controversial ideas through the lens of biblical wisdom. I'm your host, Keith Wood. Today I'm with Isaac Lawrence. Isaac is the Director of Recruiting here at Trinity Baptist College. Isaac, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So, Isaac, prior to coming to Trinity, was actually in the Marines, where you worked as a recruiter for many years, right?
Yes, correct. My primary job was administration, but for 3 years I worked as a recruiter in Atlanta, Georgia.
So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about recruiting for a Christian college and just discussing some of the challenges that face incoming college students and maybe some of the anxieties associated with that life-changing decision. As we get into it, what are some of the differences that you see between those who were looking at joining the military from your experience versus someone who's looking at possibly enrolling in college?
Yeah, I would say for a lot of people who are looking to join the military, in my experience, what I've seen is that many of them kind of already had this as a goal. Like maybe there was somebody in their life that was influential that they wanted to follow in their footsteps. Maybe it was a parent or uncle. So it's always been like a goal for them to go into the military. So that was kind of like the goal from the beginning. Where there was somebody like me, I wasn't necessarily planning on going into the military, but it was about midways through my high school time frame where I started to figure out that I needed to do something. And one thing that I knew at the time is that I was not ready for college, which is why I saw the military as a possible option. I ended up meeting with a recruiter and figured that at that time it would be the best decision for me, which is why I decided to go into the military. So I think some people come to the realization that, hey, this actually might be the best option for me at this point in my life. And then they go ahead and make that decision to go into the military. So, yeah.
Okay, so for the military, it sounds like it's a much more kind of deliberate, on the whole, like, I have a role model or something, and I really want to go into the military. With college, maybe not quite as much of that. So, what are some of the main driving factors that you see pushing people to pursue a college education?
Uh, I think a lot of it just has to do with what's been normal when it comes to society. Uh, Kids go through school, and throughout their school time frame, college is kind of pushed from their guidance counselors. College is pushed from their parents. So it seems to be like the natural next step for students who are coming out of high school to go into college. And I don't think that for a lot of students, there's a lot of consideration that's given towards other options that they might have, such as military or vocational school, or something else that might be out there, an apprenticeship program or something like that. So I think that our society is just kind of built to kind of more or less push students in that thought process of, well, my next step from here is college.
It's kind of the thing to do.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Okay. And you've been a recruiter in the college scene for 5 years now, something like
It's
that?
just been 3 years.
Oh, 3 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
3 years here at the college so far.
That's not a super long time, but have you seen motivations change in your time as a recruiter, or do you feel like it's over those 3 years mostly been the same?
Yeah, I would say overwhelmingly it has kind of been the same as far as students making the decision to go to college after high school. I do think that there has been a bit of an increase when it comes to technical schools, programs,
okay.
vocational type programs. That seems to be something that's being pushed a little bit more, at least in the public school system for sure. But overwhelmingly, I still say that college is probably the primary thing, the number one option that most students are looking at, or what's kind of getting pushed towards them.
Yeah, so it is still kind of seen as the normal path, I guess, for a young person. You graduate high school, go there, but that might be shifting a little bit as perspectives on that change, and it sounds like maybe intentionally schools are trying to change that narrative and provide paths toward like trade school and things. So how does one, just from your experience, I'm sure that you've seen students come to you who were very well prepared and students who were less well prepared for that kind of transition. So what are some things that you think a person can do to support a high school student who doesn't know what to do about college? And maybe relatedly, is there still value in college if you're uncertain of what to do, which it sounds like is the case for many students who are coming into college, right?
Yeah, well, a couple things. One, it's funny because I actually do a lot of presentations at different schools here in the city, and I always try to promote three things. And I think that these things will be good for both parents and students as the decision is being considered as far as what's going to be next for the student. And I'm actually kind of putting together some content around this to hopefully, try to help be a resource for parents and students as they start to make these decisions. The first thing that I would say is that it's important for students to really understand and have a clear understanding of what they're passionate about. And the reason why I say that it's important to know what you're passionate about, because I really believe that the things that you're passionate about are going to be able to, you're going to stick to it. You're going to stick to it. For example, if I want to work with animals and I want to be a veterinarian, because I just love animals and I really want to work with animals, well, that passion that I have for being able to work with animals is going to help me out in the times when I have to do those things that are not quite as fun in that field. So when I have to clean up animal poop, I'm more inclined to feel good with doing that because of the passion that I have for animals. And I'll even use myself as I'm a musician. I love playing the keys. I love playing the piano and playing the keyboard for church. Sometimes it's not fun to sit down and go through scales and do some of the practice things that you have to do in order to keep yourself at a certain skill level. But because I have so much passion for it, then that allows me to pretty much stick to what it is I'm looking to do. So I think the first thing that is good for parents and for students to understand is what they're passionate about, because that's going to allow them to stick to whatever it is that they're going to go to. The second thing I would say is that students and parents have to be honest. They have to be honest. Students have to be honest with themselves about where they are, about what they're ready for, about what they're not ready for, about what they're capable of, and about what they're not capable of. If there's a student who's not very good at math and a student that doesn't like math, there has to be honesty about, like, maybe engineering isn't the best route for me.
Right, yeah.
Because if I don't like math and I'm not good at math, engineering is a profession that requires a lot of math.
Right.
So at some point, you really have to be honest. The path to success has to be laid on a foundation of truth and honesty. And if it's not, then the only thing you're doing is setting yourself up for failure. So you have to be honest with yourself about the things you're ready for, the things that you're not ready for, as you get ready to make those decisions about what's going to be next after high school. And then the third thing that I always encourage people to do is to just remember that life is going to come with adversity. It's going to come with challenges. You're going to make plans, and there's going to be things that's going to kind of deter that plan. So the best thing that you can do is don't let it stop you in your tracks. Don't let that adversity or whatever that comes stop you in your tracks. You have to make adjustments. Sometimes you have to reroute or figure out another way, what other resources that you have to get you to what it is that you're trying to go through. Because if you let it stop you in your tracks, you're not going to be able to get to whatever that place of success or whatever you visualize as success, whether it's college, whether it's a business, whether it's a technical school, whatever it is. You can't when adversity comes, you can't let it stop you in your tracks. You got to keep moving forward to get to where you need to be. So if there's anything that I would, any advice I would give to parents and students to consider those things as you get ready to make this decision for what it is that you're going to do after high school.
So I could imagine a lot of maybe parents listening to this thinking about their, senior in high school, and they're saying, yeah, we want to be honest with ourselves and we want to factor in all these things, but this passion question, like, that's the big question, isn't it? Right? Like, what are you passionate about?
Right.
You senior who are about to graduate high school. So with that said, a lot of times I think people can feel like, I wish I could tell you what I'm passionate about, and I really don't feel like I know the answer to that question. is there any kind of guidance that you offer to that kind of student? Do you still feel like there's value in attending college if that's
Yeah.
their position? Like, how would you navigate that kind of situation?
That's a great question because you're absolutely correct. Not everybody knows exactly what it is that they want to go, what they want to go into. I would actually say that majority of the students, especially in ninth and 10th grade, have no clue what it is that they want to do. Even going into 11th and 12th grade, a lot of the students have changed from one thing to the next thing,
Yeah, right.
within a year, from nursing to now wanting to be in law enforcement or something like that. So a lot of students don't have that clear picture or the path of what they want to do. I think that there's definitely still value in going to college, but I think it has to be the right college setting. Now, here's what I'll say for me. I was very unsure about exactly what route I was going to take, which is another reason why I decided to go into the military. But the things that the military provided for me to help kind of give me direction and kind of get on the path that I needed to be on are the same things that I think certain colleges can do for students as well. There's something about having a college experience where you are able to learn how to wash your own clothes.
Yeah.
When you're able to learn how to when you have the budget, for food and all of that. So those are things that are going to teach you life skills that you can pick up in college. Now, some colleges I think are colleges where you can kind of maybe get lost in a crowd because it's so big. And I think that might not be a healthy environment for certain students who may need a little bit more direct mentorship, which is why I think Trinity Baptist College is a great place for somebody who is maybe not sure about what it is that they want to do. Because one, professors are going to be able to know you by name because of how we're structured and how close-knit we are. So you're going to be able to get mentorship. You're going to be able to get guidance and assistance that maybe you won't get at certain other places. And that's why I say it has to be the right college situation. If a college is a college that has a lot of mechanisms for like mentorship and guidance and people who are involved in the life of their students, then I think that student would definitely have the right amount of accountability that they need in order to be able to kind of get a little bit more direction for what their life path is supposed to be. So
yeah, I think the things that you just described I can actually resonate a lot with. I didn't come to college until I was 23 years old. Actually, I lived with my parents for a long time after graduating, and I was just doing kind of odd jobs. I worked in food service for a long time, and if you don't mind me regaling you with a little bit of my personal history, so I was working as a pizza delivery driver. And my company, it was actually on a military base in Europe. I was working for a government pizza organization, pretty unique context. And the restaurant I worked for hired a man to be another delivery driver, and I was training him. And this man was 73 years old and a retired professor of business from the University of Maryland.
Oh, wow.
He had to get a job on the base so that he could keep his ID card and stay in Germany. And so he just took any job. So here I am training this 73-year-old retired professor to be a pizza delivery driver. And we became really good friends through that process. And, I would have these conversations with him about, what I was doing with my life. And he really encouraged me to go and pursue college. And, I was one of these students who I felt like, man, I wish I knew what my passion was, and I just don't have the answer. And he told me, more or less what he said was that in his own life, going to college hadn't been about pursuing a specific end. It was more about providing flexibility, because he felt that once he got the college education, it opened doors for him to do a lot of other stuff. And so I said, you know what, that's something that I can resonate with. Like, let me go ahead and just take steps toward developing my education and see what other doors open up. And so that's what I did. And I studied business management and ethics. And then I pivoted actually after I got my undergraduate degree, studied philosophy, and now I'm, working on another degree in philosophy as well, working as a philosopher. But I was so grateful for that insight that, like, just because you go to college, it doesn't mean that you have to have, like, you're not committed to a career, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
no, absolutely.
so anyway, maybe you could comment a little bit on my
Yeah.
story.
No, I think that's great, and I think that you're literally a perfect example of that person who maybe doesn't have it all figured out, but was able to go to college and the next thing open. And I think there's even a biblical principle when it comes to that. Our steps are ordered by God. Sometimes we just need to focus on what our next step is, and who knows, what God can lead you to when it comes to that. So yeah, honestly, there are very few students that I come into, whether it's high school or even at the college level, that are laser focused and have like a very straight road path and steps laid out as far as how they're going to get to what they're looking to get to. And usually when I encounter those students, there's not much I can say to them, because hey, it sounds like you got everything already together. Hey, I'm praying everything works out for you. So those students are very far and few between.
And it'd be interesting to know how many of those students end up there, when it's all said and done. I'm sure that some do, but I know that it's not always the case. I think probably on a similar note, where would you say the average high school student is mentally or emotionally, and what are some of the ways that they feel lost in terms of moving to college? Is it, I would imagine the passion question is a big one, but are there other questions that are big stress factors?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I had to assign an emotion to what most students are experiencing based off of what I see when I go out there, it would definitely be fear. It's just fear of the unknown. And one of the things, and this is another reason why I'm kind of putting together some content to hopefully be a resource. One of the things about being in school is that for 12 years, students knew exactly what was coming next. I'm going to the next grade. I'm going to the next grade, going to the next grade. You get to your senior year, and it's like literally the first time that you've had to think about things that you've never had to think about before. Whether it's going to college or vocational school or military, like these are decisions that are big life decisions, but decisions that you've never had to even consider really up until, you get to that part in your high school career, and you don't know like how it's going to turn out. So I think the biggest thing is just the fear of the unknown on what's going to happen if I take this step, or what's going to happen if I take that step.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of excitement about reaching that milestone of graduating from high school, but there's also just a lot of fear about what it is going to look like when I transition into going to this place, or going to the military, or going to a vocational school. And hopefully what I want to try to do is just give them some things to consider to at least help mitigate some of that fear, help them be able to, one, make the best decision for themselves, and then also just kind of mitigate the fear that's going to be there.
So let's break that down a little bit. What are some of the things that prospective students or graduating high school seniors worry about that you think maybe they don't need to actually worry about as much as they do?
That they don't need to worry about as much. I think that I wouldn't say that it's not something that they don't need to worry about as much. I think that they need to be a little more confident in their own abilities sometimes. I think there's a lot of fear about, being accepted, or, I think there's fear around being rejected. When it comes to submitting our college applications, a lot of colleges are looking for certain GPAs and all of that type of stuff. And some of these students are like great students when it comes to their GPA and things like that, but they still have this fear, but what if they reject me? You're a 4.0 student. I think you're going to be okay. So I think sometimes they don't realize how much of a asset that they are, and that how much I think they should lean into that a little bit more, and just be a little bit more confident when it comes to making a decision. So I would say they shouldn't worry as much about what could go wrong as much as just focusing on who they are and just taking that next step. So
maybe touching back a little bit on the direction question. Do you know any information on at what point the decision happens where students are deciding what they're going to do with their life? Is that normally a decision that happens, freshman year of high school, or like when does that come in?
I don't think sometimes that decision doesn't even happen until like a couple years in college.
Uh-huh.
So even once students get into college course, for the most part, you have about 2 years of general education classes that you need to take. But even working at the college level, I've seen students like change their major from one thing to the other because they got into college and they realized, you know what, maybe I don't like this so much, but this right here, this field actually is interesting to me a bit more. So even though there are some students that maybe go into college with a particular program that they're looking to go to, it is not uncommon for that to change even at the college level. And I've seen that, like I said, even working here at the college. So some people go into a medical school and they realize, you know what, I don't know if I could really stomach all of what I need to do this, so they switch out and do something else. So I think that, and I think that's okay as well. I don't think you have to have it figured out, especially coming out of high school and even going to your college years. If you realize that, you know what, maybe I'm not cut out for this, but this is something that I think is really pulling me, then switch over to that. I see that happen even at the college level a lot.
Absolutely. Or in my case, after college, when I decided, let me go ahead and pivot. Okay, great. I want to shift gears a little bit and ask, thinking about a parent, I think probably one fear that a lot of parents have is that maybe they haven't done enough to adequately support their student financially with the college decision. Would you be able to offer any advice to parents who feel like that's the situation that they're in and that they haven't done enough financially to prepare?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, I don't think there's a lot of awareness sometimes when it comes to all the resources that are out there. So what I would encourage parents to, one, I mean, even look at the resources that the government allows. You have your FAFSA, which is essentially the federal government allocates funds to be able to help students out with going through school. You have the state government that has different resources out there. Here in Florida, Florida Bright Futures is a huge resource that can cover a good chunk of college tuition, so long as students meet the eligibility requirements. For a GPA is 3.0, 100 community service hours, and then there is a 10 score requirement. But if the student is able to meet those requirements, that is a huge scholarship opportunity in and of itself that the state of Florida provides. Outside of that, there are a number of different other grants and scholarship opportunities that the state government provides as well if the student meets the criteria. The other thing I would say is that just think about every place that you go to on a daily basis, whether it's a grocery store, whether it's a clothing store, some type of whatever business. Every business has some type of scholarship fund that they sponsor or are a part of. And so as you go on your weekly routine and go shopping and buy donuts and buy coffee, hey, stop and ask the store managers, hey, by any chance, do you guys have any scholarships that you offer for students who are getting ready to go to school? And if so, how do we apply for those? Because literally there are scholarship opportunities all over the place. And some of them just remain untapped because people just don't know or haven't really put forth the effort in trying to find out about those scholarship opportunities.
So I would imagine that there's a lot of people potentially listening to this who think that, college just financially it's closed to me. Now, I know you probably don't have specific data at your fingertips, but if I ask you to put a number on it, what percent of people do you think college is closed to financially? Meaning, college just isn't going to be an option for this person because of financial obstacles.
A student has to be driven. I think if a student is driven, if a student is, and I think that there are college options that are definitely really, really affordable, such as Trinity as being an affordable private Christian institution. I think that there are so many different scholarship opportunities that are out there that are just untapped because of ignorance, as well as institutional scholarship opportunities that colleges have within itself as well. That
in many cases, students wouldn't even know about those unless they've applied to the college.
Correct. Yeah, you're not even aware of them until unless you submit the application to see what type of institutional scholarship programs that are available to you. That I would say that the percentage is very, very small, very, very small. I know a number of students who've graduated from Trinity with little to no debt because of scholarship opportunities, because of the affordability of the college, and because they kind of just worked their way as they was going through it. So to be able to graduate college with no debt, I mean, that's definitely where you want to be. Not every college you're going to be able to do that with, though. And that's why it's just a lot of different factors that go into making that percentage. But I think I would say that again, it kind of depends on the student, but it definitely is an accessible goal to.
I mean, it sounds like if you're going to say that college is literally closed to you for financial reasons, that there must be something like pretty substantial going on in your life such that you're not able to work your way through college when you consider the abundance of financial resources that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. I hope that's encouraging to some people as they consider what to do on that question. Okay. So what are some challenges that you think uniquely face people like you and your team who are recruiting for Christian colleges?
Great question. So it seems like we're living in a society that's becoming more and more secular by the day. And, it's almost becoming offensive in some circles to just, once they hear, oh, this is a Christian college, there are certain connotations that come with it that are misinformed, but are definitely prevalent in society. So a lot of times when I go out to meet with guidance counselors or leaders of school, I try to do my best to kind of overcome some of the negative connotations that seem to be associated when it comes to our faith, because we know that there's representation that's out there that's not necessarily representations of the Christian faith that represent the Christian faith the way it should be represented.
Well, we talk about controversial issues on this podcast. So give us an example. How would you go about kind of mitigating that or overcoming some of that in those conversations?
Okay. Well, some of it really is just a matter of just being kind, to be honest. Some of it is just a matter of being personable. Some of it is a matter of just leading with empathy when you're having certain conversations. So, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about a very controversial thing, right? The LGBT community, right? And that's something that's garnering a lot of support when it comes to public schools, where there are resources and things like that that are happening now. So one of the things that happens that seems to be negative is when they hear a Christian college or whatever, it's almost like, oh, this is a college that is
against this group of people.
Against this group of people, and that's dangerous for them, for us to have them here or something like that. I'm using that and I'm just kind of using that as an example. So there's kind of like this thing where we want to protect, this group of people. So we, it's kind of like a little bit of hesitancy when it comes to, letting our college come in and do things like that. And so on a few occasions, I've had to kind of overcome some of those challenges simply by being personable and expressing the truth of the Christian faith is that we believe that everybody should be treated with dignity and respect. And, that's one of the values that we hold near and dear, because everyone, regardless of where they are in their life, was created in the image of God and the Imago Dei, and therefore is worthy of dignity and respect. So, so of course, that's something that again, sometimes I have to overcome when it comes to, you know, certain things, and that's just one example. But I mean, for the most part, what I've learned is that, you know, if I'm going there and I'm smiling and I'm being respectable to the people who are the leaders there, or whatever, for the most part, they're happy to have us come in. But there have been some times where I've had to kind of overcome some indifference here and there. But so yeah, I think that is one of the challenges that we face as a Christian college. That also is not something that's faced at other institutions who are just well known. You know, you have other larger institutions that are just staples that everybody knows about, and they have people have family members that have gone there, and that's kind of like the place to go. You know, the popular place. Whereas with Trinity, you know, we're a bit smaller, but we're definitely starting to gain some traction with regards to being being recognized here in the city as a you know, another college option. And so that's something that is encouraging to me. It's something that I've tried to do since I've been in the positions that I'm in. When I graduated, and I would say it's the same thing now. If somebody was looking to go to college and stay here in Jacksonville, there was the only place that came to mind was UNF, FSCJ, JU, and Edward Waters University. And Trinity wasn't necessarily on that list because of just, you know, the exposure piece of it. So one of the things that I've aspired to do since becoming the director of recruiting is just make sure that we're on the list. Yeah, we need to be on that list of colleges that's at the front of students' minds if they're graduating from high school and looking to stay here locally. So
and so part of doing that is making sure that people understand who we are and what we're actually about in terms of that. I think that's where overcoming some of those challenges comes into play, right? Like, well, are you guys against this segment of society?
Right.
And of course, that doesn't mean that you don't have rules in place, you know, and things like that.
And that's another thing that we're definitely upfront about. We, you know, we are a small private Christian college. Our policies and everything is governed by what the Bible teaches us. So when it comes to our conduct, our behavior, you know, we have to submit to biblical authority and what God is teaching us through His Word. So yes, those are things that govern our policies as a Christian college. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, Isaac, I really appreciate you coming and just sharing with us a little bit about what y'all do in the recruiting world and some of the challenges that you're seeing going on with young people and offering some advice on how they can navigate one of the biggest decisions that they'll make in their life, really. So thank you very much for being with us. And to all of you listening as well, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.